Hello, everyone. So, this is a good question about the war in Ukraine. So, we're going to start with it as our update on Ukraine for today. The answer is yes. Yes, we have a lot of bordering countries that are helping. And unfortunately, they don't get enough screen time in the US. So, as I mentioned multiple times before, saying that US provided all of the aid or most of the aid is a fallacy. There are now multiple sources that are reputable that would show you otherwise. Majority of the aid going to Ukraine has been provided by the EU. It's not that US aid has not been significant, but there are costs that US is not bearing. And in fact, even the little bit of refugees that US had here are about to be booted out. That's as of yesterday. They're about to be stripped of their refugee status and sent out. So let's break this down. We know there's been significant help from the UK, France, and Germany, all of which provided not just the military aid, but a lot of military training with the equipment that Ukrainian soldiers have not had exposure to before. Very important. In addition, Canada, it's not a bordering country, but it has a big Ukrainian community. And so Canada has been providing financial and military aid. Poland, Romania, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania have all been providing support in terms of housing and taking care of the refugees. Millions of people have been displaced. As of right now, the last time I checked, we had 6 million Ukrainians. Nearly 1/7 of Ukrainian population still residing in Europe. The brunt of it is borne by Poland. And this means taking care of these people, registering them, putting them, on the social security systems, finding them jobs, finding them housing, putting their kids to school, feeding them, clothing them, all of those things. Many went to Poland. Many went to other European countries. There are some in the UK, some in Italy, in Spain, in Germany, and so on and so forth. So that is a huge expense that US does not see and does not report on. So that is your answer in terms of is there any help coming from the bordering countries? They are trying. Estonia was one of the first countries to allocate a specific portion of its GDP to helping Ukraine. Other supporters include Scandinavian countries, Denmark, Finland, Sweden. Finland particularly has a stake in this game because once upon a time, Finland used to be part of the Russian Empire, and they know what it's like. You can look up specifically, country by country, what has been contributed, if you have more questions. But yes, the neighbors are helping, and they're trying really hard. This is something that, again, doesn't get enough coverage in the US media. So I'm going to Ukrainian media. What is going on with the actual war? In 2024, we saw a lot of advances by the Russian army, and the purpose of Ukrainian military was not so much to win, but to stop them, and they have succeeded. So this is an excellent article in Kyiv Independent, and again, that is a Ukrainian source. They report from the ground, and they have a wonderful English language edition, as you can see for yourself. So they are addressing that very issue that just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. But basically, Ukrainian military had slowed Russian advances to a crawl. And frankly, very few people in Ukraine take the whole peace talk, ceasefire thing seriously. As I mentioned many times before, we've done this already. We know this. Just a reminder to those who were not aware of this, and you are absolutely free to fact check me on this. Between 2014, annexation of Crimea, and 2022, full-scale invasion, Ukraine held over 200 talks with Russia and agreed upon a ceasefire 25 times. Each and every time that ceasefire was violated, guess by whom? By Russia. Which is why, at this point, Ukrainian people are like, yeah, and? When it comes to Russian advances, Ukrainians used the weather and terrain to slow them down over the course of winter. While there were some advances in the Donetsk region, overall, as I think somebody has calculated right now, if Russia were to try and invade all of Ukraine, it would take them over 80 years at the speed they're going. And here is the important thing. So here is a graph. Again, this is Kyiv Independent, if you want to pull this up, showing just by how much Russian advances had slowed. This is month by month. So you can see the worst we saw was back in the end of 2024. So September, October, November. And then it basically just ground to a halt. In addition, Ukraine continues to hold on to that little postage stamp of land in the Kursk region, and it has made a foray into the Belgorod region. So why is Zelensky just talking about it? Because he was waiting for confirmation from the troops operating there without endangering them. The initial attacks were reported in March. Now, why Belgorod and Kursk? Again, this is something we discussed extensively. If you look at the map, Belgorod region, Bryansk, Kursk, all of those are border region which have been used by Russia as staging grounds for sending more troops and more weapons into Ukraine. Basically, Russia, by choice, turned those regions into gigantic military bases. Ukraine has been saying now for months, get your civilians out of there because you have turned these areas into valid military targets. Russia didn't. There was no government support for civilians. There was no program to evacuate, nothing. People basically were left on their own. And when Kursk region was, the scene of the incursion last summer in August, Putin basically told the governor of the region that it was his local problem and he should deal with it. And this continues to have a psychological impact, even though the advances are not very great. But it does freak out the other side. Meanwhile, another day of mourning as people of Kryviy Rig buried their dead from the horrible attack last weekend. One of the people present was the teacher of two of the children who were killed, talking about them, talking about the two empty desks in her classroom now. And this is a profound statement. This is by the head of the city administration, Alexander Vilkul. He said, "We are not asking for pity. We demand the world's outrage." That's a good line. We demand the world's outrage over the murder of our children.